Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol. Bahukoti Chandrajini Vadana Ujvala Bahukoti Chandrajini Vadana Ujvala Chandrajini Vadana Ujvala Vadana Ujvala Kala Desevana Mala Kala Desevana Mala Kore Jaramala Shiva Shuka Narada Prema Gada Gada Bhakti Vinoda Deke Gorara Sampada Bhakti Vinoda Deke Gorara Sampada Jiva Jaya Jaya Gora Jade Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavani Pashtyatyadashatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Nirvishesha Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gauravani Krishna Jaya Radha Gokula Nanda, Jaya Radha Gokula Nanda, Shri Radhe. Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. ki, Prahlad Maharaj ki, Prabhupada ki.
Yes, I think so. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradari Jaya Yashodanandana Brajananjana Yamunadiro Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradari Yashodanandana Prajana Ranjana Yamunatiro Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradari Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Shri Radha Gokulnanda Ki Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ki Shri Gauranitai Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Go Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 28. So I will do the Sanskrit verse first. Dravya yagyas tapo yagsha yoga yagyas tatapara svadavyaya Gyanas yagnascha yataya samsita vrata ravaya yagyas tapo yagyasya yoga yagyas tapta para svadaya gyana yagyascha yatya samsita vrataha Rava yagyas tapo yagya yoga yagyas tatapara svadaya jnanat yagyascha yatya samsita vrataha. So the word for word, Drava yagyas, sacrificing one's possessions. Tapa yagyasha, sacrifice in austerities. Yoga yagyas, sacrifice in eightfold mysticism. Tatatas, apar, others. Svadaya, sacrifice in the study of the Vedas. Jnanas yagyas, sacrifice in advancement of transcendental knowledge. Cha, also. Yatya, enlightened persons. Samshita vrita, taken to strict vows. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, translation. Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities, by practicing the yoga of eightfold mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge. Purport. These sacrifices may be fitted into various divisions. There are persons who are sacrificing their possessions in the form of various kinds of charities. In India, the rich mercantile community or princely orders open various kinds of charitable institutions like Dharma Sala, Anakshetra, Atita Shala, Anathlaya, and Vidyapita. In other countries too, there are many hospitals, old age homes, and similar charitable foundations meant for distributing food, education, and medical treatment free to the poor. All these charities activities are called Dravyamaya Yagya. There are others who, for high elevation in life or for promotion of higher planets within the universe, voluntarily accept many kinds of austerities such as Chandayana and Chaturmasya. These processes entail severe vows for conducting life under certain rigid rules. For example, under the Chaturmasya vow, the candidate does not shave for 4 months during the year, July to October. He does not eat certain foods, does not eat twice in a day, or does not leave home. Such sacrifice of the comforts of life is called Tapumaya Yagya. There are still others who engage themselves in different kinds of mystic yogas like Patanjali system for merging into the existence of the Absolute, or Hatha Yoga or Astanga Yoga for particular perfections, and some travel to all sanctified places of pilgrimage. All these practices are called Yoga Yagya, sacrifice for certain type of perfection in the material world. There are others who engage themselves in the studies of different Vedic literature, specifically the Upanishads and Vedanta sutras, or the Sankhya philosophy. All these are called Svadaya Yagya, or engagement in sacrifices or studies. All these yogis are faithfully engaged in different types of sacrifice and are seeking a higher status of life. Krishna consciousness, however, is different from these because it is direct service of the Supreme Lord. Krishna consciousness cannot be attained by anyone who of the above mentioned types of sacrifice, but can be attained only by the mercy of the Lord and His bona fide devotees. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is transcendental. Okay, let me just. Omegyantimidandasya gyananjana shalakaya chakshunum yena tasmai Shri Guruve namaha. Shri Chaitanya manobishtam stapitam yena bhutale swayam lupa karamayam dadati swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalan Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shirupam Sagrejatam Sahagana Ragatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhavedam Sadhavadudam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karana Sindhu Dina Bando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki. I would like to ask for the blessings of all the Vaishnava watching here in the temple room and online. And I'd like to thank the seniors for allowing me to have this opportunity. I pray I can say something which is relevant and substantial and will help one advance in their spiritual life. So let's begin. So let me just read the translation again. Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities, by practicing the yoga of eightfold mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge. So here the main concept I've kind of taken out of the translation is that one can do austerities or sacrifices or study transcendental literature in order to elevate. As it says in the purport, Krishna consciousness, however, is different from these because it is direct service of the Supreme Lord. Krishna consciousness cannot be attained by any one of the above mentioned types of sacrifice, but can be attained only by the mercy of the Lord and his bona fide devotees. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is transcendental. So in Krishna consciousness, we can do so many different things. But, a lot of the time, what we do is catered around mercy. We don't always have this, control over what's going to happen next. We always have to kind of leave it up to will the Lord give us His mercy. But one can still do sacrifices, austerities, tapasya, in some shape or form, and try to capture that mercy. Mercy can only be given to one who kind of makes that endeavor. So we must open the door of mercy, and we must be able to kind of walk through that door to actually grab that mercy. So in verse 310, Saha Yagana Prajaya Shritstva Purushvaka Prajapita Anena Praveshadavam Eshavo Astvi Istakama Duk. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods along with sacrifices of Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by the yagna sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation." So here the Lord describes that sacrifices for Vishnu were sent, and by doing so one can have whatever they like and be happy. Generally the sacrifice means satisfying the Lord. So doing something to satisfy the Lord, I should say. And then in 3:12 it goes on to say, I won't do all the Sanskrit because it might not have enough time. So in charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yagna or sacrifice, will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to demigods in return is certainly a thief. So the demigods provide what we need. But this all comes ultimately from Krishna, as we know. So the way it works is that if one needs something specific, they perform. This was more, kind of during Satya Yuga, I guess. But yeah, so if they want something specific, they perform a sacrifice. Then that certain demigod then provides, whatever they need. Generally, we hear a lot about Lord Indra and rain. They do sacrifice to Lord Indra, and Lord Indra provides rain. But we'll come to that later. Yeah, and then once they they get what they need, they then offer it back to the demigods, just as like a gesture of I guess this is, you provided this, so I'll offer this to you first, and then take what I need from it. But why do we need to offer it to demigods? Where do the demigods kind of get all their resources from? Krishna is the Param Ishvara. He's the supreme controller of everything. So everything comes from him. And in the beginning of time, this is the kind of the condensed version of this, but because it could take a little while to explain. But in the beginning of time, there was Krishna, and from Krishna comes Vishnu, who's kind of like Krishna's away at work version. That's the best way I can really put it. But anyway, there's obviously different Vishnus as we know. Again, I'm not going to get into that because I could be sitting here all day explaining to you which Vishnu goes where. But specifically in the universe, kind of at the top is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Then from the navel of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu comes Lord Brahma. Vishnu then imparts knowledge into Lord Brahma, who he's then gets this knowledge on creation and how to create, because he's like the ultimate creator of the universe. So he creates all the creatures, and he even creates a lot of the demigods. Point Krishna. So yeah, as we know, Vishnu then imparts knowledge into Brahma, and then so yeah, like I was going to explain, this knowledge ultimately comes from Krishna to Vishnu to Brahma. So it's kind of like it's non-different. It's like they say. The knowledge we take from like Srila Prabhupada, it comes in displicit succession. So in the same way, the knowledge that's passed down, it comes, in the right kind of way to us. So there's no kind of altering. So it's pure, but we know ultimately it comes from Krishna, even though we're getting it from like our spiritual master or Srila Prabhupada, like that. So when we do sacrifices, we should do it for Krishna. Anything we do, we should do for Krishna, really. It's easier said than done, but this is the mindset we should be in. We should have respect for the demigods, all being like they're still providing. But ultimately, we should understand that there's the higher power. Why water the leaf of a plant when you can water the root and water all the leaves at once? So yeah, when we satisfy, the root, it means we're satisfying Krishna and everyone that comes under Krishna. And then verse 723, Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my planet. So the demigod planets are influenced by material nature also. So even if one reaches, these demigod planets, as it said in that text, then they're still not going to be in kind of eternal liberation or eternal happiness. So Krishna in this verse explains that his devotees reach the supreme planet, and there is eternal liberation, as we know. And then in text 730, it says, "Those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of material manifestation and of the demigods, and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Person and Godhead, even at that time of death." So specifically, even all the methods of sacrifice come from the Supreme Lord in some shape or form. So how can we sacrifice for the Supreme Lord? So, there may be different people listening. For brahmachari especially, sacrifice, their time and, all their things to serve, all the time directly the deities in the holy dham. And then they offer, whatever they do to the Lord. This is still a sacrifice. And then, grahasta, example of maybe a sacrifice that they can do is, their money. They may offer it as, charity in some shape or form to allow the holy dham to function. And I was thinking, the other day, Radha Maharaj has so many different projects, like the Govardhan Hospital and, the Govardhan Village. They wouldn't be possible without the grahastas, providing so much money towards them. So the brahmacharis, they equally work hard to create these projects, as well as obviously the grahasta. But the money plays an important part. We must have something physical to actually pay for these things. So in that way, there's that practicality side of it, and charity is good. And then both of these people can also do in their personal lives. They can do penances. In a way, chanting our rounds is a sacrifice also. We sacrifice time to sit and meditate every morning. It's a lot of time that goes, 2 hours. We wake up extremely early. This is also a sacrifice. A lot of what we do is sacrifices. And, devotional service in itself, we're sacrificing. We're not expecting anything in return. We're just giving all we have, and we just want to do it for the Lord, and that's real selflessness and sacrifice in that way. So one just needs to give up something for the pleasure of the Lord, and in return the Lord will be merciful. As I explained earlier, mercy plays a huge part also, and the more we put in, the more we get out. And like as explained in Canto 10, chapter 24 of SP, if you ever want to read about it, it's a really nice story. I'll give you the summary now, but I would highly recommend it. So this is where Krishna sees the cowherd boys getting ready, like getting all the bits and pieces together to perform a sacrifice for Indra in Vrindavan. And obviously at that time, everyone was worshipping kind of Indra and the demigods. So then Krishna went to Nanda Maharaj, and he asked, why are you offering everything to Indra? Nanda Maharaj then explains that when a sacrifice to Indra is done, Indra then provides, rain. And in chapter 3, Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, verse 14, it says, Anad bhavanti bhutani parajanat anasambhava yagna bhavati parajano yagna karma samudbhava. All the living bodies subsist of food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yagna, sacrifice, and yagna is born of prescribed duties. So they're basically offering to Indra so society can function. Like explained in that verse, without without the rain of Indra, the grains then can't grow. They need this water. It's very important. I mean, you can imagine like places where there's droughts. They find it very difficult to rely on for grow crops and things like that. So anyway, getting back to the story. Krishna then responds to Indra saying, it is because of karma alone that living entities take their birth in a certain body, experience varieties of happiness and suffering in that body, then give it up as the karma pertaining to it runs out. Thus, it is karma alone that is our enemy, our friend, our guru, and our Lord. And Indra can do nothing to alter the happiness and distress of anyone, for everyone is tightly bound by his karmic reactions. So, we're tied into our karmic reactions, and what Krishna is saying here is that regardless of these karmic reactions, Lord Indra can't take these away. He's powerful. He's a powerful demigod. He provides rain, but he can't take these things away. So what's the use? I think that's kind of what Krishna is kind of hinting at. Krishna then instructs, says, the correct worship should be given towards the cows, brahmanas, and Govardhan Hill, especially. Then they did everyone kind of heard Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They know that he's this powerful being. Even in Vrindavan, they knew that he was a powerful being of some sort. So then, everyone adjusted the kind of sacrifice, and they did it. They did an offering to Govardhan Hill. Krishna then takes, for the brahmanas to do this offering. Krishna then, says you should be making all these food for the brahmana because they're doing this really nice sacrifice for us all. And generally, like when a brahmana does, these things, we give them things. We give them, especially they used to give them cows. Especially like that was like a big thing, where if a brahmana does sacrifice, you give them cows, you give them, gold, you give them food, especially. But anyway, Krishna then takes all the food and explains that, so they offer the food, and then Krishna just takes all the food, and explains that Indra never, appeared in person. Like they may offer things to Indra, but Indra never appeared in person. But seeing that the food was there, and then Krishna, just took it all, it's kind of like he's kind of saying, that there's actually a personal form there who's actually taking, Govardhan, who was actually taking this food. So it's a really important point, this, that when we physically see it, like sometimes we offer food on the altar, and we may not necessarily see things. And I remember when I came into Krishna consciousness, and I would see like food being, I mean I wouldn't be able to see, but food would be offered on the altar, and I just never understood, you can't physically see someone taking a bite out of the food, so how do you know the offering is going? But as we come into Krishna consciousness and start to have more faith, we then understand, like Krishna, he accepts anything that's done. There's that verse, offer me like a leaf, a flower, water, and fruit, and I accept. And it has to be done with love, especially. So if it's done with love, then even if we can't see Krishna takes a bite, but we know that he's kind of taken it, and it becomes Mahaprasad. But yeah, Govardhan just ate the food in front of him, in front of everyone. Hence, then they started to sacrifice and austerities from that day onwards to worship Govardhan Hill, because it's very dear to Radha Krishna, and in some ways it is actually Radha Krishna itself. So this is exactly how many see sacrifices. But Krishna personally came to say, no, we must worship Govardhan Hill, and by doing so, like I said, they offer worship to Radha and Krishna. When I started thinking about this verse, when I was planning this class, I really wanted to emphasize the importance of, sacrifice for Krishna and Krishna only. because there may be many people who are watching, and may be carried away by this form of Krishna, that form of Krishna, but like we should really just take Krishna's form, as his form, and offer all we have to that highest form of Krishna. Yeah. So in my personal life, just as a kind of case study, I've sacrificed many things, especially for my spiritual life, and I've seen that when we sacrifice so many things for Krishna, Krishna then takes 100 steps towards me, and this is all part of Krishna's magic. You do anything for Krishna, then he personally will help you. And I've heard Shyama Sundar Prabhu say this before in Prabhupada Memories. He emphasized this point that they gave their all to Krishna, and when they gave their all to Krishna, Krishna really, they put themselves really out there, and it was difficult to do at that time, but they did it, and Krishna helped them along the way, and they literally saw Krishna's magic along the way, whether it's through Prabhupada or directly, just these mystic things that were happening. But yeah, you do anything for Krishna, but then and he'll personally help you. This doesn't mean you have to renounce, but it means whatever level you're on, you give what you feel is right to practice Krishna consciousness consistently. And that word consistently is important in Krishna consciousness, because at the start of when we come into Krishna consciousness, we can be on a bit of a high. We're reading maybe 100 pages, we're chanting 800 rounds, and we're just kind of going for it, and then there comes a time where things start to slow down, and then we feel a bit lost. I mean, I don't know if any of you felt that, but with those highs and lows, Krishna tells us we need to be equal. Equanimity is very important in Krishna consciousness. We shouldn't be. We should be balanced. That's the best word. We should be very balanced in it and consistent. So for me, I sacrificed, my job. I left my family physically to come here. And of course, my family are still around, obviously, but I'm not physically with them. But I don't. I gave up many relationships, like past girlfriends, my friends. I don't have those friends like physically here. Not to say you can't have any of these, but for me, I needed to focus on my spiritual life. And personally, like I needed this training. So I felt, if I put myself out there and I, just do this sacrifice for Krishna, that he will kind of help me. But I wanted to make this other point. In one of the classes, again bringing up Shyama Sundar Prabhu, he once said while I was here at the manor that even following the 4 regulative principles and chanting 16 rounds, that's enough of a sacrifice. Because most people even struggle to do this properly. So even if one just does these 4 regulative principles and chants 16 rounds, and really goes into it properly, then they're correctly performing a sacrifice, and that will get them a long way. Consistently performing sacrifices. So it's not just about going for the biggest sacrifice you can do, but going for something that's achievable and consistently throughout your life. Man, like imagine you follow 4 regulative principles and chant 16 rounds every day for the next, till the day you die, and you're doing it properly. Like you'd be extremely well situated, I think, in spiritual life. So yeah, I sacrificed, and Krishna helps me while I'm here. Krishna allowed me to even be here. Number one, Krishna gives me so many services here for Radha Gokulananda, even when I don't ask for services. Even if I may be overwhelmed, but Krishna somehow or another makes space in my day for extra services. And like I've been on the farm this week, and for the last few years I've had this desire that, I wanted to do some farm work, and Krishna definitely arranged, and it's so nice having that arrangement of Krishna, just feeling Krishna's presence. So I would just say, everyone, just put yourself out there, take as many steps as you can towards Krishna, and Krishna will triple those steps, back to you. So yeah, to conclude, without pain there is no gain. So take yourself out your comfort zone, and you'll make progress in Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki. Any reflections, comments, corrections? Trust in the mantra.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, thank you very much for the class. That was really nice. I maybe had one reflection, just because we're learning in class today, in Bhakti Shastri. I think it was 4:13 or something, the verse that brahmacharis, their sacrifice is the hearing process.
Say that again. The sacrifice
is the hearing process.
The hearing process.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like you're talking about sacrifice,
but
we're sitting here and hearing from you. So this itself is a sacrifice.
Yeah, definitely. That's really nice. That's a really good point. And like we there's so many different things we have to do in Krishna consciousness. Chanting, reading, kirtans, devotional service, and if we just hear properly, if we're doing devotional service and we really hear the instructions and we follow them properly, then it will go really far just by listening to those instructions from someone who's more elevated than us. Chanting our rounds, if we hear ourselves chanting, we're hearing the vibration and it's really going into us, like it kind of merges into us, that vibration. And then kirtan, again, we have to hear the kirtan properly. We have to like when we're reading, they say in Srimad Bhagavatam, it says we must sit at the feet of a elevated soul and hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So yeah, sound is like the most potent vibration. So when these vibrations enter us, they go further. So yeah, no, that's a really good point. Hearing, I think, not just for brahmacharis but for everyone, the most important thing is hearing. It goes shravanam, then kirtanam. Kirtanam is chanting the glories. I mean, they are both very important, but first we must hear to chant. So yeah, that's really nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else got a question, reflection, comment? Alright, I'll end it there. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.